until this point, we've seen a number of examples of how end users can access information stored within Windchill, whether they're using Navigate, desktop integration with Microsoft Word, or reporting for managers looking for dashboards and reports on specific contents within Windchill. So what I'd like to do now is shift focus and actually come into the Windchill application and dive into a little bit of depth on some of the medical device solutions and functionalities and some general Windchill activities. So here I'm going to log in as Peter. So Peter's a user here that has administrative rights and is a super user. So we're going to see he has access to many of the different features, if not all the features within Windchill here. So he is all powerful here, and he's going to be able to navigate the system and show all the functionality that we need to see here this afternoon. So upon logging in as Peter, Peter lands on his home page here. So on the Windchill home page, which is configurable, so he has it configured, so he's actually seeing My Task. So My Task is essentially a work list. So if Peter or a user is involved in, say, a document review, a release process, or involved in the engineering change process, they may get tasks or activities that they need to do to complete that particular process or workflow. Also on his homepage, you can see here he has some saved reports. But as I mentioned, this is configurable. So if Peter didn't want to see, say, saved reports, but he just wanted to see any updates to any of the information that's being managed within Windchill that he has access to, so he can now see that table on his homepage where, in addition to My Task down here, he now can see any updates that happens to any of the information, any of the data that's being managed within Windchill. So very configurable and very accessible to get to the information that the particular user needs. Also within Windchill, very powerful searching capabilities. So if I came into my little flyout panel here, I have an advanced search. So we saw some simple searching within Navigate earlier in the demonstration. This is a little more comprehensive, where it's actually a full context search engine. So if I came in, for example, I can see the different objects that I may be searching for within the system. Here I'm just searching for a particular document, but if I happen to be searching for drawings or a CAD model or an assembly or any other object being managed and stored in Windchill, I can certainly do that, obviously. So for documents, if I want to come in and I want to search for example, standard operating procedures or SOP, so I'm going to use my wildcard search here for SOP, and it returns to me 82 documents. So I can see some high-level information here about the document, the name, number, context, version, state, when it was last modified, etc. But it's a pretty decent list to go through, but I now have the ability to come in here and search or parse the list down a little bit. So if I want to come in and say, I just want to see the documents that are created by me. So I put that additional search criteria on. It did bring it down a little bit to 69, but if there were fewer documents than that, you can certainly see the information that you're looking for within these particular documents. Also, within this flyout panel here is where we come into the different context being the products, the libraries, and the projects. So those were mentioned earlier when I went to check in that Word document, if you recall. And I see a number of different options here, but because I'm Peter, this is a lot of the admin functions, so most users, if not all users, would not see these. So we'll get into products and projects in just a minute, but I want to focus, first of all, on this concept of libraries. So libraries is a means to organize similar information. So example, if I have common parts that are used, say, across the organization, or standard documentation such as standard operating procedures or reference documents, say 13485 manual. So for example, so if I came into, say, my quality library here, and this is more of a general area, so you can set up a team that has access to it, and then you can control access to the content within each of these different libraries. So for example, in the quality library, as in all libraries, you have the ability to set up these folders and subfolder structures. So if I'm managing as a reference library here, so I'm talking about ISO 13485, and here I can see the different sections, 1 through 8, if I wanted to drill into any one of those particular folders to see that. I also have the ability in managing documents and doc management, the ability to come in here and set up document structures. So you can align and build these document structures. So if I'm looking for section 1, for example, at 13485, I can see 1.1 and 1.2 for those different sections. So just an option that you can actually build out these document structures within these libraries. In a similar fashion, if I show you another library here, so if I came into my standard operating procedures here, I have some high-level details as well as setting the team and the access and the folders. If I came into the folders for my standard operating procedure. So I now see I have some general SOPs as well as some data sheets as well as some quality and biosafety subfolders here. But I also noticed too, so here's the document that I checked in earlier. Actually, it's this one here, JC627. So when I checked in this document from the desktop integration in Word, this is the location that I stored it in. So if we just came in and took a look at some of the details on this one particular document. So as you recall, when we were checking this document in, we made a number of decisions and choices for this as far as the metadata was concerned. So the first thing we decided to do, decided that this document is going to be part of the design history file. And we're going to categorize it as a design input for the category for the DHF. And we'll see why that's important a little bit later within the demonstration. And we also decided that this standard operating procedure is going to need some training against it. So by selecting training needed, it's going to go through a particular workflow. So that's going to drive behavior. So it's going to go through a standard release process. So it lands it in work as the state. It needs to go through the workflow for someone to review and approve it. And then it's going to go to a release date after somebody signs off on it with full e-signature capability within the tool. And once released, it then goes to an in-training state where the training coordinator picks it up and the training coordinator makes some decisions on the training, who's going to need to be trained, a group, a person, a department, and the training interval, how often does people need to be trained on it, and setting up reminders and things like that. And once everyone's been informed, and they'll get a task through the workflow, and this document's going to remain in this state within the workflow until all the training is complete. And then the training administrator would move it to effective, and then that SOP would become effective once everybody's been trained on it. So document control all wrapped up in training and tracking here for this one particular document.